los amigos de Dhamma. I first became interested in Buddhism when I was 20 years old, when I was in my junior year of college. Initially, it was just through reading books. I had tried to do some meditation on my own, but I didn't, without any guidance. I didn't know how to go about it. In 1966, I went to graduate school in California, at Claremont Graduate University. And during the second semester when I was in the graduate school, then a Buddhist monk from Vietnam came to study at the same university, and he came to live in the same residence hall where I was living. And so I thought that this was the opportunity for me to learn how to practice meditation. So I began to visit this Buddhist monk, Vietnamese Buddhist monk, and he gave me my first instructions and guidance in meditation. And then after a few months of practicing, then I saw that there was true benefit in meditation. And I was already strongly interested in Buddhism. So then the idea came into my mind that I should become ordained as a monk. And so I went to my teacher and I asked if he could ordain me, and he said that he would do so. And so in that way, in May 1967, I became ordained as a novice monk or samanera in the Vietnamese Mahayana system. Well, first my Vietnamese teacher put a lot of emphasis on the study of the Agamas, which are the equivalent of the Pali Nikayas. And so we had ordered from the Pali Text Society the English translations of the 4 Nikayas. And when basically the reading in Buddhism that I was doing while staying with my teacher was reading in the Nikayas. And sometime later, this was about after my Vietnamese teacher, after he completed his studies, he went back to Vietnam. And I had to stay on for a couple of more years in order to complete my own dissertation. And during that period, I met several monks from Sri Lanka. And this gave me the idea, after finishing my degree, to go to Sri Lanka to become a Buddhist monk. Well, before I became a monk, I was not like a wild playboy, but I was a student in college and then later in graduate school. And my field of specialization in college was philosophy. So I was always interested in sort of these philosophical questions. And I lived a pretty quiet life, not a wild, a wild lifestyle. Yeah, of course, we face many problems today in contemporary society, but one of the striking things about the Buddha's teaching is that the Buddha traces all the different problems that we face collectively to the human mind. So the Buddha says that the 3 roots of all harm and suffering are greed, hatred, and ignorance. And so if we look at all of the problems that we're facing, whether it's perpetual warfare, economic inequality, environmental destruction, climate change. Basically, all of these problems we could see originate from the mind, from the human mind collectively through the collective force of greed, hatred, and delusion. And so if we're going to solve these problems, of course, changes in policies, governments, institutions are necessary. But the most fundamental change that's necessary is the change in the human mind. And so we have to train our minds to move away from greed towards generosity, away from hatred and violence towards nonviolence, towards compassion, towards kindness towards others, to respect for others, and away from ignorance towards wisdom or knowledge. And in relation to many of these problems, this means understanding the relationship of cause and effect, the way If we're going to deal with problems, we have to be able to trace them to their root causes and deal with the problems at the level of the root cause. And as I said, the root cause of most of these problems we're facing is a mind that is out of control. And so we have to at least establish a code of ethics amongst people so that people can learn to restrain the unwholesome impulses of the mind that manifest in harmful and destructive actions. At first, even though I'm a Buddhist monk, I don't want to try to convert other people to Buddhism and say you should become Buddhist. But I'd say that the most fundamental or basic commitment that young people should make would be to lead what I would call an ethical way of life. So this is the foundation for any kind of spiritual life. And so in Buddhism, we teach especially for the general population to observe 5 precepts of not killing or harming other beings, not stealing, no sexual misconduct, telling the truth and avoiding false speech, and avoiding the use of intoxicants. Okay, so this is the basis for our practice, for a spiritual practice. And then I would say that, again, the most important thing, once one has a solid ethical foundation, is to come to understand one's own mind and to train one's own mind. So this is not a matter of adopting Buddhism as a religion, but we have to see that what kind of states of mind are going to be harmful to ourselves and become causes of harm to others. And again, these always come down to what the Buddha calls the 3 unwholesome roots: greed, hatred, delusion, and out of these come many other unwholesome qualities of mind, like pride, arrogance, jealousy, resentment, anger, and many other secondary states. And so then when we see that the harm that the human mind can create, we also see the need to train the mind inwardly. So outwardly we observe a code of ethics, but inwardly we need some way to train the mind in order to develop the good qualities of the mind. And so particularly what we would emphasize is the good ethical qualities of the mind would be loving kindness and compassion. So loving kindness means the wish to promote the well-being and happiness of others, and compassion means the wish to alleviate, to remove the suffering of others. And so what I say is very special about Buddhism is that it teaches distinct and very specific methods for developing these good qualities of mind. So this is not a matter of embracing Buddhism as a religion, but we learn what kind of Buddhism will give us a kind of map to see and understand the mind, and the methods for understanding our mind and developing the good qualities of the mind.